Welcome to Is Anybody Listening to Me podcast with Azar and the Meat with our special guest Jarvis tonight. This is the long-awaited NFL draft special. It's going to be 100% focused on this year's NFL draft. We've been talking about this. We've been very excited. This is like Christmas for us right now. We're a couple days away from the draft, so we are trying to get our picks out there so all of you can listen and see what's going to unfold on draft night. So hopefully what we're sharing with you is not too much of a surprise when it happens. And then you're going to look back at this and say how spot on our predictions were outside of Big Meat. Big Meat's not going to have the right predictions, just to call it all right now. Let me welcome my partner, Big Meat. How's it going, Big Meat? I know you've been giddy about this for days.
You read my mind, Azar. I was just about to say I am giddy. I am very giddy for this. This is my favorite podcast probably since the cheesesteak podcast, not the cheesecake. That's another podcast down the road. We're talking about cheesecakes. But I'm excited. Mind. Yeah, exactly. So we're doing this. We usually have our podcast schedule for Wednesday evening. It's Tuesday evening now to give a couple of days prior to the draft to allow people to listen to this. And I'm excited for this draft more. I can't remember the last time I was this looking forward to the NFL draft. I got my DVR set up. I'm ready to go. So
why is
I love it.
Is it just because the Pats are picking high, or is it because the possibility of a new quarterback? Like, what is it about this year that's got everybody still fired up, you think?
I think that definitely has a part to do with it. The Patriots picking somewhat high, 15th. But also in the fact that we need a quarterback. We're just excited not to have Cam Newton on the team. Like, if they draft a quarterback, it's going to be celebration in the streets. But it's also the fact that I think the talent in this draft is just it's loaded. I don't remember in prior years, like you hear about a couple guys coming out of college. I think this year there's like stud receivers and there's 5 quarterbacks that potentially can go in the top 10. You have like a stud tight end, like you guys, every position, there's this like unbelievable player that's coming out. And I don't remember it being that way for so many years. So I just think it's just a loaded draft. Patriots have a chance to get one of them. That's it. I think that's the big reason there. But
do you agree with that, Jarvis? You think that's what all the hype's about?
Oh yeah. Well, I think too. Yeah. You hit it right on the head. It's that the Patriots it's the Patriots drafting 15, but it's the fact that they have a need, right? That we've never been in a situation before going into a draft where we were like, the Patriots need this pick, and all the other years it's like, let's see what Belichick does. He's playing draft chess while everybody's playing draft checkers, and he's, maximizing the pick and trading back. And we were all about like, yeah, let's see how he manipulates the other teams. This year, everybody's petrified of that. And it's kind of nice to be able to be excited about a pick. Like, I actually think that, like, I want to see them take a person at 15. I actually felt this way last year, but not to this extent. There was a linebacker that I thought was going to be Hightower 2.0. They traded with the Chargers. The Chargers took him, and then they went back to the second round and took Kyle freaking Duggar. So it's like, let's go.
Tifa boy's boy.
He's the first one to blow up our phone. He's like, I scouted him in Madden. Shut up. So it's like, come on, we need a quarterback. We never in 20 years have needed a quarterback going into the draft. How are they going to do it this year? Is it going to be pick 15? Is somebody going to fall? Are they going to trade up? There are so many mock drafts experts out there saying that the Patriots are going to trade up. We've never been in a position where we've been talked about like that.
And especially especially after the free agency frenzy that they have, right? They just picked up all these guys, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, now you have a chance to get this stud rookie to come in and make an impact, whoever that is. It's exciting. It's exciting.
To one step further, John, it's that they spent all that money in free agency and no quarterback. So we were like, okay, the draft. It's got to be at the draft, right? Yeah. Now we'll know who's going to actually start at quarterback.
I actually have two other reasons as well. One is because a lot of players opted out last year. So there were great players from 2 years ago that didn't play in college last year that are now entering the draft. So I think there's like now it just adds to the talent coming in. But also my other reason is because when I mentioned Mac Jones 3 months ago, now all of a sudden, all right, you know what? I'm going to save it. I'm going to say I'm jumping ahead.
He's
I'm going to save it.
All right.
I'm so giddy.
invested.
I'm so giddy, Azar.
He's take invested.
I think there's a little bias that's going to be in this. If anybody hasn't noticed, I agree with everything you guys are saying. I feel like there's more excitement this year because I think we're trying to convince ourselves this year is going to be different. This year, in the 20 years of Belichick, he is not going to do what he normally does and trade his pick for more picks in the second round. Or he's not going to do something crazy, or he's going to do something more sexy. And that's just, are we kidding ourselves? Like, that's what I'm a little nervous. Like, there's a lot of hype, but it is still Belichick. And I feel
we
like
set ourselves up for a big disappointment.
So, like, we could be like, I know we're going to try to tune in together for a special podcast when the Patriots pick, just to give you like an additional podcast later in the week to kind of give our assessment what happened. But how deflating would it be as soon as the 15th pick arrives and we're just waiting, and then you hear Goodell go, they just traded the pick to the Detroit Lions or the Dallas Cowboys or whatever, right?
Well, I'm going to burst your bubble. If it's one of those two, that means they went up.
They went up. That's right. But if they go down, then what do we do? Then do we go, all right, everybody log off and log back in again at pick 27?
That's what I mean. Like,
at that point, do we even care?
No, because that means Cam Newton's coming week 1.
I agree with everything you guys are saying, but in the back of my mind, I'm like, man, are we just tricking ourselves for this draft?
Well, look, if free agency is what is like giving us this false hope. If Belichick went through free agency with like nothing, then I would say the draft is probably going to lead up to nothing. But he went against the grain, non-traditional Belichick, spent $250 million and loaded up. There's no way that the draft is going to be approached the same way when he already came out and said, we haven't drafted well with the way we've been doing things in recent years. So we're going to go revisit how we do things. Like, that's creating the hype. Like, what does that look like? Why would you come out and say that? Kraft came out and said it. Belichick acknowledged it. So don't say it if it's going to get us excited because there's actual conversation around something different happening.
For me, it's like a gambling addiction. It's like you go to the casino. There's a chance you win a lot of money. There's also a chance that you lose a lot of money. But I'm excited nevertheless. I'm sitting at that blackjack table. I'm like, you know what? Let's go. I'm excited. And then I lose all my money. And I'm like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
Like, you know what?
I hope Belichick doesn't get an ace and two aces.
That's how I feel.
Split the picks.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Kings. He gets Mac Jones and like the two people that we think might get like Fields and Mac Jones are there, and he's like, nah, they're both here. I'm going to trade the pick.
Yeah.
Well, the worst thing would be is if he trades and he moves up, that's like doubling down. And then they get like a Division III. Well, they get like a Division III player that no one's ever heard of. Well, you moved up for him. It's like, no.
It would just, to be honest, what if they traded to and got Kyle Pitts? He loves tight ends. What if he goes and gets another tight end? I'd be like, really? Like,
well, I wouldn't mind that. I'd love it. I love it. Kyle Pitts is a stud.
Yeah, but why spend on Jonnu and Hunter Henry?
Maybe they go 3 tight end sets. Maybe he's revolutionizing the.
We're going to go down this rabbit hole. You know that's not going to matter if Cam Newton can't get him the ball.
I know.
None of this matters.
Let's not get into the weeds of that. Well,
now I'm invested in day 2 if that happens because day 2 is that Jimmy Garoppolo pick, and they are sending that baby right back to San Francisco.
I just to keep you, the people that are listening, to give you a little bit of hope. I did hear today, and I didn't realize it, that the Pats have 10 picks in this draft. They have 10. So they have a lot of inventory. Do they really need to trade out of the 15th pick to add more picks? The only thing they would do is unless he added more picks for next year or something crazy. So let's just hope that he's got 10 picks in this draft. He's going to stay put in 15 and make some magic happen for us. So I'm trying to stay optimistic. There's another reason that maybe this year will be different. He's got plenty of picks.
He has the salary cap room to take 10 picks, though.
Oh, look, if there's someone that he wants,
I think he does.
I think he can make some cuts if he thinks there's an area.
Do you know, I heard a trade rumor today that there were talks between the Falcons and the Patriots for Julio Jones.
Yeah, I heard that. There's been a lot of teams that have been inquiring about Julio Jones.
Yeah.
But to your point, I still think they have like 15 million under the cap, and that's
crazy.
That's more than enough to cover all those picks, especially because a lot of those picks are towards the end, 5th, 6th, and 7th round, where you're paying these guys peanuts.
Yeah.
So
I think he'll use it. Like my greater point is to give you additional ray of hope that maybe this year will be different. He's got plenty of picks this year. There's no need. And he went crazy in the free agency. He's filled a lot of positions. Now it's just kind of filling a little bit of gaps and holes to make them stronger, give them some depth. So with this, I'm more optimistic this year. I might be kidding myself, but all right, let's get started. Let's dive into the first pick. Seems like it's not fun anymore because everybody kind of knows what it is. Number 1 pick is going to go. Oh, let me back up. I apologize. So we're going to use the mock draft, and we're going to focus our attention on this particular mock draft from Albert Breer from Sports Illustrated. This one came down on April 27th, which was that today?
Yeah, it's the most recent one we could find.
Yeah. So that's the most recent. So it's as of today. And no shocker, he has got our boy Trevor Lawrence going to Jacksonville. So any shocker there? Anybody expect anything different that's going to occur there?
He's already donated to like charities in Jacksonville, and they sent him a wedding present or something stupid. It's whatever.
They actually tweeted out.
You know what? I do want to say something about him. He's going to be terrible. He's going to be terrible. I want on the record right now.
Hot take.
Botch of a pick. I'm telling you right now, Trevor Lawrence is not even the 3rd best quarterback coming out of this draft in the NFL. He will not live up to any of the hype that he gets. I don't think he deserves. I think he was on such a dominant team, and that he's kind of gonna. I was trying to think of another analogy. Like he's like Vince Young, right? Dominated in college and is going to just fizzle out into nothing because he's on a shitty team. Trevor Lawrence, NFL bust.
But this is what I've heard of him in one source saying that he's the best quarterback prospect that they've ever scouted. Coming to one of the sources, that he's not great at any one thing, but he's just good at everything. He has no weakness. That's basically what I've read about him.
He throws with this snappy flat, like this limpy wrist. Watch him throw it deep out. It's the limp. He looks like Teddy Bridgewater kind of has the same thing where they throw the ball, but instead of it coming out, there's like a weird like wrist snap delay and the ball kind of fluffs out of their hand. It just doesn't look right. And I don't know. I just don't see it. I mean, he's dominant in college. It was great fun to watch. Cam Newton was fun to watch in college. Meh. Vince Young was awesome to watch in college. Sucked. Yeah. I just think he's going to be another one of them.
Do you think Urban Myers can develop him?
No, I don't. I think Urban Meyer is going to be Nick Saban 2.0 in the pros.
I think the fact that it's Jacksonville, I think that's gonna hurt him. But it is. If anybody is doubting maybe that they don't take him, Jacksonville actually tweeted out a picture. It was like an outline of a quarterback, and it was like a little coloring outline saying who is Jacksonville going to take. And somebody actually picked up on the outline, and it was an outline of actual Trevor Lawrence. Yeah. And they put it side by side, and it was like everything from like the wrinkles in his shirt and everything. It was him. So Jacksonville basically took Trevor Lawrence, made an outline, and made it sound like, oh, who are they going to take?
Yeah,
it's locked in. That's who they're going with.
Locked in. Shitty pick.
Okay. Well, Jarvis is going on the record.
On the record, they should trade the pick.
He's going to be the 2021 bust quarterback right there for him.
They should trade the pick. I think they could get a haul for him. They could get a franchise-changing haul for him and let him go suck somewhere else.
I think it'd be too difficult for someone like, even if Urban Myers didn't want him, to pass on him, and it will tarnish him right from the start.
Well, that's how they got Urban Meyer. They said, we have the first pick. It's Trevor Lawrence. You want to coach the kid? And he was like, yeah, all right.
That's
I
what
need
I mean.
To get out of college because I'm going to get banned from all the illegal stuff I was doing.
Alleged. Okay. All right. So the Jets, the helpless Jets, get the number 2 pick.
who also had
And-
10 picks this draft.
And they are actually, from Brett Breer's prediction, Zach Wilson from BYU is going to be
Yeah.
the number 2 overall pick.
They came out.
Reed,
They
disagree?
came out and said it. No, they came out and said that they were taking him.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
a no-brainer. Yeah, he's definitely being taken.
All right,
Yeah,
so
all signs point to them taking him here.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's nothing sexy there. Like,
Nope.
again, no, there's gonna be no surprise. All right,
But
He
that's
did-
two
he
QBs
did
off
have-
the board.
He did have the highest passing grade in the country last year. So if you're looking at if you weigh that, maybe you could look at that and say, oh, he should be first instead of Trevor Lawrence. But yeah,
I think
But New York, the Jets are in love
both
with
of
this
those
guy.
franchises, if you flip those two, they ruin both of those quarterbacks. Trevor Lawrence would suck at the Jets. He's going to suck in Jacksonville. Wilson could be Sam Darnold 2.0 unless they dramatically alter that team.
Mhm.
Now let me ask you, Jarvis. When you read the Brett Breer article, were
You guys
you
can't say Burt Breer, huh?
Brett Breer? I can't even say it. It's just it's the time of night that we're doing this.
God.
How did you feel when he wrote, "I've had people draw Aaron Rodgers comparison"? How did it make you feel when you heard that? Did you pucker up a
Tingled.
little bit? Did it?
Tingled a little bit. Did tingle a little bit.
I don't
did
know
enjoy it.
did Jarvis like that comment or was he like offended by it? I don't know. It's like
No.
how dare you compare anyone to Aaron Rodgers?
No. It's an honor to because if he was so here's the other thing is that like are they comparing him because he's kind of a douche or are they comparing him because of his talent on the field? Then we got to like parse out. But I think that they were comparing him to being kind of a douche, and
Well, he's admitting he's a douche.
I've heard that about Zach Wilson is that he needs a specific type of coach in order to get the best out of him, and if he doesn't have the right coach, he's going to be an attitude problem.
Oh, lovely. So he's gonna have. Is he
suck for the Jets.
Rodgers' his monotone voice too?
I've never heard him speak. This was like it was in like a script on a screen was like a quote. So I don't know. I don't know what he sounds like.
I'll have
but
to YouTube him.
He
I
can't
think I
sound
saw
like
it.
any more. He can't sound like any more of a douche than Aaron Rodgers. does,
Zach
though.
Wilson will never host Jeopardy. That's what
No,
I'm calling it
no,
right
no.
now.
That's a fair assessment.
All right. So
Okay.
let's move on to the 49ers have the 3rd pick.
This is where the draft starts.
Finally.
This is
Yeah,
where the draft
finally
starts.
we get
here.
to-
Here,
Get to the good stuff.
So they have. This is gonna hurt me if this happens, but he
Ooh.
has Mac Jones Alabama going. in the number 3 spot, which would devastate Meat's all
I
of
think
his
Meat
predictions.
just signed off. I think he just quit.
He's throwing his headset. He's walking off.
Oh
So-
no,
Nope.
he's
You know what? I know
go
what
get him.
Meat's
Go
gonna
get him.
I know Meat's predict. Why don't we start with Jarvis because we already know where Meat's going to go with this one already. So, Jarvis, what do you
All right,
thinking?
well, so here's the thing: is San Fran definitely traded a lot to get up to that number 3 pick. The crazy part is there's not a consensus for it. They basically unloaded their short-term future to get a quarterback, but nobody knows which one it is because there's Mac Jones, there's Justin Fields, there's Trey Lance. How San Francisco is either extremely dumb in throwing away the end of their window of like, I don't know, opportunity that they have. They're in a window to win right now. They're built for right now. They have to have targeted a guy that is going to change their franchise. Otherwise, you don't trade this pick, next year's first round pick and other picks to go get like, we'll just take who's ever left. Like, do you love somebody that much to make that trade, or do you just want whoever's left? Because they traded with Miami. They were at 6, right? Cincinnati took Joe Burrow. Atlanta has Matt Ryan, and Miami has Tua. If they were just going to take whoever was there, whoever was next, why would they trade up 4 spots to just take who's left? Because nobody's taken a quarterback ahead of them. They traded up to make sure that nobody could jump over them and trade to get someone.
That's fair.
So for Mac Jones to be maybe a first rounder, and then Patriots will get him at 15 to now, the Niners traded up, he's going 3. I don't know about that. I think that what I'm hearing is that enough sources have kind of given me the impression from what I've read is that I think I've heard that Trey Lance and Mac Jones are the 2 names. I think they're going to go Justin Fields.
Really?
I think they're going to take Fields. So they definitely need a QB, and I think they're going to go Fields because of They fell in love with him in the playoffs against Clemson, and he just kind of has like that recency bias. And I just think intangible wise, looking at him in college, he looked better than all the other ones as far as like being able to be a dynamic playmaker. And I don't know. I don't see Trey Lance has played 13 games. I don't think he played last year, right? Or he was injured for a while. Like, I don't see them being like, that's the guy that's going to change our franchise. Mac Jones was barely rated a first rounder when they made the trade. There's no way that they're going up and getting him. It has to be Justin Fields based on what I think.
All right. So let me ask you, wasn't Kyle Shanahan, wasn't he the coach that had a thing for Kirk Cousins?
Yes. Still does.
Yeah.
Still does.
So if Kirk Cousins is his style of quarterback that he was infatuated with, right? And Kirk Cousins never really, he's an okay quarterback. I'd say he's a little bit above average. I mean, he's got some good talent around him, so it's tough to really gauge, but he's not a great quarterback, right?
Yeah. It would be Mac Jones. The answer to your question is Mac Jones.
So Mac Jones fits. And do you think that's why people are leaning towards Mac Jones? Because they're using some of what Shanahan likes?
Well, maybe not what he likes, but what he's comfortable with. He went from Kirk Cousins. He had Matt Ryan in Atlanta and then Jimmy Garoppolo in San Fran. That's the Mac Jones profile.
But the other players, from what I read, would open up his offense better than Mac Jones. So
that's why I said one of the other players.
Yeah, but it's interesting. Why would he go for a guy like if he has a certain type, but he has an offense designed a certain way? Like they don't mesh. You know what I'm saying? Like
but I also think the NFL. But look, Lamar Jackson and Mahomes changed the NFL in the last 2 years. So you're talking about Kirk Cousins pre-Mahomes, pre-Lamar Jackson. You're talking about Matt Ryan, pre-Mahomes, pre-Lamar Jackson. You're talking about Jimmy Garoppolo in the current NFL, and he hates him. So if he was happy with that model, he would be happy with Garoppolo. He's not happy with that model. He wants to open up and expand his offense, I'm sure. And why not find somebody that they think is dynamic enough to do that? Lance is supposedly the biggest like athletic quarterback, the highest ceiling athletic wise in the draft, but the kid's only played quarterback 13 times in competitive sports. But
they took Garoppolo, who played how many NFL games? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
but Garoppolo played in the playoffs and won. He had a pedigree of high stakes games and performing. It wasn't so much that he just
when they got
but it was after. Yeah,
that was after.
Yeah, that was after. He did
in college. He was in college. He went to the Division II, 1A, whatever playoffs and went on a run.
So he played enough games in college that a larger sampling than just 13 games.
Well, even just a different sampling, right? He didn't just play regular season games. He played high stakes games with something on the line, right? So he performed in pressure situations, which gives you some indication as to what he would do in the NFL. So I just think it's different.
All right. Well, I'm agreeing with you because I think things don't match up. Like, if he's trying to get away from the Kirk Cousins model, and Mac Jones is like Kirk Cousins, why would he draft the thing that he's trying to get away from? I think I'm with you. Like, is it Lance or Fields? That's up in the air, but I don't think it's Mac Jones. And me agreeing with you, I'm sure just adds what you're going to say. Like,
so
I'll let you do it.
Jarvis did touch on it earlier because up until 2 days ago, I was saying Mac Jones all the way. And then I got to think, too, that they moved up. Obviously, they moved up for a reason. They want a QB, right? And you're hearing all the buzz lately the last couple of days. It's either Trey Lance or Mac Jones. When they traded up, Mac Jones was not considered a top 3 pick, right? This is what Jarvis touched on earlier. I don't see them moving all the way up to 3 to take Mac Jones. They moved all the way up there because they wanted to make sure that they either were going to get Mac Jones, Trey Lance, or Justin Fields. And they didn't know at that time who it was. So they had an opportunity to move up to number 3 overall to guarantee they're going to get one of those guys. Maybe they even heard that the Patriots were planning on moving up. And then they said, okay, the Patriots are going to move up. They might get one of these guys that we might fall in love with. Let's beat them to the punch and move up to number 3. And they went to both of these guys' pro days. I think they really like Mac Jones. Mac Jones is a Shanahan kind of guy. Everything you read is he fits well in his type of offense. But I think Trey Lance has kind of changed their mind a little bit lately, and I think now they're leaning more towards taking Trey Lance. He's the guy I think they're going to end up taking here at number 3. They're going to go for it with Trey Lance, even though he has that minimal experience playing. What was it, 13 games, Jarvis? He did have a lower turnover ratio than even Trevor Lawrence. He was like 1.7%. The guy is a smart guy, all the physical tools. I think he's the guy that they want to build that team around, and not Mac Jones. So yeah, I'm gonna stick with Trey Lance on this one. I think they're taking Trey Lance number 3.
I wrote it down. So Meat's taking Lance in the 3rd round. Jarvis is taking Fields.
Third pick.
Third pick. Sorry, 3rd pick. I apologize. I'm just reading my notes. All right. So let's go. Let's move on. All right. We got your assessment there. So the 4th round, it seems to be pretty consensus. I've looked at a bunch of mock drafts. The Atlanta Falcons, Kyle Pitts, the tight end from Florida. I haven't seen a single mock draft deviate from that. Have you guys seen anybody or anything change your mind?
Not recently. They're all changing to that. I think something's leaking out of Atlanta that he's the next guy. He's going to be the guy for them to replace Tony Gonzalez and, try to fill that tight end role.
So and they had great success with that. So it makes sense if you're still going to keep Matt Ryan. And if you keep Julio Jones,
and they got a logjam at receiver. I mean, if they're trying to keep Jones, they got Calvin Ridley. They always have a pretty decent number 3. So, there's no running backs, which is odd, by the way. There's 0 running backs in the conversation for 1st round picks this year, which,
Oh, there's some conversation, not top 50.
So not top 50. Not even top 20
guys. But I struggled with this one with Atlanta because you're right. Everything you read is Pitts. That's all you hear. But Atlanta's kind of keeping it close to the vest too.
I did see one where they take a quarterback.
So, all right. So there you go. So I did struggle with this one, but part of me thinks, part of me didn't think that they were going to go for a QB here. So, because I still think they like Matt Ryan, although I think he can only be good for maybe 2 or 3 more years. But what happened is they were open to trading this pick, which tells me they're not all that interested in keeping it to draft a QB. I do actually think they trade down from this pick because all the guys that they need, right? They need an edge rusher, they need a cornerback, they need a safety. There's nobody good enough out of those guys to take 4 overall. If they trade down to say 7, between 7 and 10, now they could get one of those guys that are stud players there. But I don't think, again, the consensus is many mock drafts. They're saying Kyle Pitts, which then truly could make Julio Jones expendable, right? Because you're hearing that rumor, the rumors that they want to get rid of him or trade him. But I don't think they're unhappy with Hayden Hurst at tight end. So that just leads me to think that they are taking a quarterback. And I think it's going to be Justin Fields. He's the guy I think they might go. If you look at the depth chart for Atlanta, there is no other quarterback on the roster than Matt Ryan. It's just Matt Ryan. That's it. They have no backup. They have no other quarterback, right? So unless they just reach for some nobody in free agency at this point, I think they're going to go draft a quarterback. Matt Ryan, they owe him so much money after this year. Look at his last couple of years of his contract. In 2022, he's owed $48 million. This is off the cap, $48 million. And then 2023, it's like 43 million or whatever. I just think they're going to play him one more year, and then they're either going to get rid of him, release him, and go with the new guy that they draft. That's why I'm leaning more towards a quarterback here in Justin Fields. So my first 4 picks are going to be all quarterbacks. And
if Fields go to San Fran, do you think that they would take Lance instead? So do you have it being them no matter what? Lance Fields. Lance?
Yeah, that makes sense. I would think so. I think they want a quarterback here. I just can't imagine not having another quarterback on the roster and looking at Matt Ryan's contract situation. It's going to go up. That's why I think you're hearing all the rumors now trading Julio Jones. I just don't see them taking a guy like Pitts. It's like, okay, you get rid of Julio Jones. Now you got Pitts. What are you going to do? Use him for Matt Ryan's last year or 2 in the league? I think it's time to out with the old, in with the new. They're getting a quarterback.
Wow. That's all right. That's That's bucking conventional wisdom, Big Meat. I like it.
But that's probably the most logical thing he said all year.
And Mac Jones go to the Patriots.
Nope, not gonna happen. You just sealed his fate with that.
Okay. Well, that's good. I like that, Meat, because you know what? If there is a surprise, you can take credit for it. And for those that are listening, I think you should take a moment and appreciate. Not a lot of people will put things on record like what we're doing tonight. Like I'm actually just kind of facilitating. These guys are more. They're more into the draft than I am. I'll be honest about it. And these guys are putting their names and their picks out there, so they could be mocked and ridiculed, or they could be heroes. So it's pretty bold. Not a lot of people would do that.
And you think about it, like the odds of us hitting these picks, it's pretty small, right? We're not in it. We're not like reporters. We're not around the teams. We're not talking to general managers, right?
No,
we're just basing on what we feel like. So sure, we could be wrong, and even if we're wrong, even a little bit, we're going to hear it, Jarvis.
Exactly.
Like we're going to hear from everybody, right?
Oh yeah.
But if we're right.
Oh.
Now, I just for the record, I'm sure the people who primarily employ them would not appreciate the amount of research they're doing on company time to be this well-versed.
Come on.
So, but
it's all after hours. All after hours.
Well, hopefully one day we'll have sponsors that will actually pay us for you guys to stay home and just research this thing to death. So, all right, let's move it on. So for the 5th pick, I've heard this a lot, and I'm seeing it with nothing different here. Cincinnati Bengals taking Jamar Chase from LSU. I believe there's a relationship with these two guys that is kind of what people are driving. So it could be Burrow actually kind of driving this pick, maybe.
Yeah, so he sat out last year. He should have come out with Burrow, or he could have, but he sat out last year and he's coming out this year. I actually think that the injury to Burrow changes the game. I think they take the top tackle, Sewell, off the board because Burrow, they can't risk having him injure his knee again. And for them to bolster that shoddy offensive line, I think, because they still have T. Higgins. They drafted a couple of receivers. They took T. Higgins high last year. And I know they released John Ross and AJ Green was a free agent, but like
still got Tyler Boyd.
Tyler Boyd was the other one I was trying to think of. I knew there was another one. So I mean, like they're not desperate at receiver. I think Pitts falling is an intriguing play there at tight end because he's kind of that dual can catch, but also can block and help the offensive line a little bit. So if Atlanta doesn't take Pitts, I think that could change what Cincinnati does and make them scramble a little bit. But I think protecting Burrow is their primary investment. And I think taking Sewell, who's the highest offensive tackle on the board, is the guy they go with.
Well, they do need a tackle. You're right. And I hear a lot of that Sewell is the guy that's going to go there. But I still think they need a wide receiver too. I think Tyler Boyd, and yeah, sure, T. Higgins. But I think that connection there with Jamar Chase, they got Burrow first overall last year. He's the franchise. They know that connection between him and Chase could be outstanding, right? It could be otherworldly. They could end up having the best receiving core in the league with those three guys. So I think having Joe Burrow have that wide receiver connection again together with Jamar Chase. And they want Joe Burrow to shine there. They want to give him all those weapons. I'm leaning more towards Chase. I think they go get him.
And I do. There was some news on April 12th that the Bengals acquired tight end Thaddeus Moss from the Washington.
Yeah, but Thaddeus Moss was a 7th round pick. Granted, he's also went to LSU, and that's why they went and got him, is because he's Randy Moss's son, and he went to LSU. But he was cut by Washington after he was drafted in the 7th round. Like that's a throwaway tight end acquisition. Yeah, although it's fun that he's Randy Moss's son.
I'm just wondering, like, all right, they grabbed a tight end. Is Pitts the guy? You might be. I think if they were smart, I agree with you guys. I think a lineman to protect Burrows is probably a better investment than a receiver because he did really well with the receiving core he had. I can't imagine why not protect him, help build a running game. I mean, they still like
you love Joe Mixon.
God help me. You do know if
I forgot about him.
If they sign a lineman, right?
The holes that will open up for Mixon.
Every magazine will be
First
hyping
round.
Mixon once again. Like he'll be right back. He'll be a top 10 pick.
Tackle in the country.
Yep.
Is now paving the way for Joe Mixon.
I can see it written right now. I can see it written.
Then they changed their uniforms. They sent out a picture, and it's like they're all wearing the new uniforms. And who's sitting right in the middle?
The throne.
In a throne-like chair? Joe Mixon. How did that guy get the throne? How is he the head of the table in that group? Joe Burrow is actually standing next to him. I'm like, why isn't Joe Burrow in this seat? He's the first overall pick. I don't understand what the obsession is with Joe Mixon. I don't get it.
They love
I don't get it. I don't understand
every time you listen to an expert talk about Joe Mixon, he is this most talented running back in the NFL. And then you watch him and you're like, really? Really? Is it, like, what are you seeing that I'm not seeing? But anyway.
I just want Roper to give us his belly laugh again this year. I want somebody to draft Joe Mixon. I want to hear the belly laugh.
I love it.
My last point on Chase, I don't know if you guys had a chance to see his pro day. That guy is a freak. I read something. Somebody described him as a rocked up physical freak. That's how they just described him. And he's got that same build as Julio Jones, AJ Brown, DK Metcalf type of guy. I can't imagine him not being a successful receiver in the league playing for whoever. He's going to be. He's something special.
So who are you having the Bengals taking alignment? So how do you pronounce his
Chase.
name?
No, I said Jamar Chase.
Oh, okay. I just want to make sure I write it down.
Chase. Yeah.
I have Sewell. He has Chase.
Sewell.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to be different.
All right. So the 6th pick. So this is interesting because I've heard this. If the Bengals pass on Chase, the Dolphins would take Chase. But in this mock draft, they have him taking Waddle.
Yeah, it's so I have Chase, but really what I wrote down was best available wide receiver. So at this point, I would give them Chase.
Okay, and you would think they would just take the best receiver, Waddle?
No, I think they take Sewell. Yeah, they need a tackle. They need a tackle in Miami, and Tua's a lefty, and Sewell is the best tackle in the business. He'll play left, he'll play right. It doesn't matter. I don't think they're gonna go for at this point now, right? Mac Jones. I mean, they're not going to take Mac Jones. I think they're going to stick with Tua. Interesting too that they have an opportunity here to take Tua's wide receiver connection with Devontae Smith because they do need a wide receiver as well. Perhaps they go defense, right? Since Brian Flores is a defensive guy, but the best defensive guys at this point are both cornerbacks, and Miami has enough great corners. They're loaded with great corners, so. It's difficult to predict here who they're going to go with, but I think, again, a tackle would be a guy that it seems like they're going to go with. And now Sewell falling down all the way to 6. He's a generational type tackle that's going to be in this league for a long time. I can't see them passing up on him if he slides to 6.
Okay, I like it. You guys are already kind of splitting apart from your predictions here. So from a defensive lineman, I know what is his name? Kwity Paye from Michigan. Mm-hmm. You don't see him going earlier, John? To your point.
I don't.
Early?
Edge rushers are too. It's a little weak this draft. That's probably the weakest part of this draft. I just don't see edge rushers going anywhere early in this draft at all.
Do you see them maybe trading out of this pick?
They could so that's the thing is if John is right about Cincinnati taking Chase and Atlanta taking a quarterback, that drops Sewell all the way down to them. I don't think they pass on the tackle. If it follows what I had predicted and Sewell goes to Cincinnati and they're looking at Chase, Waddle, Smith, and they don't, like to your point, Azar, if they're like, well, we'll just take one of the 2 Alabama kids, we could get a haul for Chase, somebody wants him, then I could see them shopping that pick to, even New England at that point, because
I was just going to say, there's
Mac
a
Jones is there, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so at that point, if the risk that because New England's concern is going to be Denver, right? We'll get back to that in a minute, but I think this is where like the wide receiver bubble comes. And if Miami can drop, so Miami could trade with Denver. If Denver is like, I don't want New England to jump over us at Carolina and Detroit, which are possible trade partners all the way up, because Carolina just traded for Sam Darnold, so they could be looking to get some picks back. I think jumping over Denver would be Denver's fear, and they could jump up with Miami to take the last quarterback there, and then Miami could drop down to Denver and still get Waddle or Smith.
Okay. No, that would make it an interesting twist.
But again, that's the trade stuff. We'll deal with that later.
Yeah. No, I agree. So
I have them taking best available wide receiver as Chase is there. So I'll give them that.
So I got Detroit. Based on if you follow Jarvis's track and Detroit's obsession of drafting a receiver always in the first round, you almost feel like it's a lock, right?
It's coming.
It has to be, right? Waddle. Is it Waddle or they make that same mistake again. I
think that was so. Here's
they
the
need
thing.
A receiver. They just got rid of
they could take Pitts at this point, right? Because now you're talking about that tight end.
But you already have him in your scenario gone. That's why I said with your scenario, Pitts is already with Atlanta.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
So
I actually, John actually really convinced me about Atlanta, but I'll leave Pitts there just for continuity's sake. I like your take on Atlanta, John.
So Azar, you keep mentioning. Is this Burt Breers saying Waddle is going to go before Devontae Smith?
Yes. Burt Breer had Waddle. He had Waddle to Miami.
I mean, you look at the stats compared. I know Waddle got hurt at some point, but Devontae Smith's numbers just jump off the page. I think in this case here with Detroit, I like to look at a team and their needs, right? Detroit has a lot of needs. They need a wide receiver. They need defensive line. They need edge rusher. They need linebacker, cornerback, safety. They need it all.
Right.
So they traded for Goff. I just can't see them wasting, a high draft pick here on a QB. Again, I'm going back to is Mac Jones going to go to one of these teams? No, I think Goff is the guy there. I think they want to try to keep Goff and give him a little bit of help, and that's where Devontae Smith, I think, comes into play here. I like him much better than Waddle, and depends on the mock draft. Some say Waddle, some say Devontae Smith. I think Smith is just a little bit more established. He's the guy that's gonna end up going before Waddle does. And you know who Detroit's top receivers are right now? Do you know who they are? Tyrell Williams and Brashad Perriman.
Dog
puke
poo.
And vomit. I mean, it's as bad a receivers that you can have. And you just traded for Goff, and he's going to throw to those guys. It's definitely going to be receiver.
And they don't even have a tight end. They don't have a real viable tight end. They don't have anything.
Detroit's a mess anyway. They need so much help, and it's not like, if they bring in Devontae Smith, he's going to fix all their problems. Maybe a little bit better on offense, but defense, they're an absolute shit show. So they are. We're going to be talking about them again next year as being like a top 5 pick again. They're gonna draft high again next year.
So why draft a receiver like they do every year?
Because they lost 2 of them, right? And
that's Detroit.
It's so stupid.
It's a money position. It's fantasy football, and it keeps them relevant. Because if they're not going to win in the playoffs, if they're not going to win on the field, they might as well contribute at least to the stat monkeys of fantasy football and keep them relevant in the conversation. So they're going to take. You know what, John? When we were talking earlier, Smith was the guy, right? He won the Heisman, right? He was the guy that won the Heisman. But all I see is Waddle being multiple picks off the board ahead of Smith. In some drafts, Smith doesn't even crack the top 15. So
I have him out of the top.
Shocking. I think he's the next Antonio Brown type player.
Yeah,
6'1",
shifty little slot guy. Type
very
thing.
very thin. But I mean, you could grow into more muscle. Randy Moss was thin. You know what I mean? And look at the career he had. So I just think Devontae Smith is going to be a stud. I know it was a long time ago, but didn't Detroit draft 3 receivers in a row? Was it the time when they took Calvin Johnson? Wasn't it
no? It was
one
before
receiver?
That. It was Charles Rogers. It was Charles Rogers. Roy Williams.
Yeah,
Roy Williams.
Charles Rogers. Roy Williams. I don't think Megatron was part of that 3 though. I think it was somebody else.
Yeah, I think it was the 3rd guy that they took was the better of the. They kept trying and trying, and 3rd time's the charm. The 3rd receiver that they got ended up being a good receiver for them. I thought it was Calvin Johnson.
That's brutal. So Jarvis, should I just put you down as Waddle and
just Smith? Put me Alabama wide receiver 1.
Okay. What a devastation. Again, this is why I'll throw my shoe at you if you draft anybody from Detroit. You deserve a shoe in the side of your head during the draft.
It was It was Mike Williams. Remember Mike Williams from USC?
Yes.
He
Mike
was
Williams.
the third one.
Yeah.
So it went Charles Rogers from Michigan State. It went Roy Williams from Texas. And then it went Mike Williams from USC.
Yeah.
And it was like the 10th pick, the 7th pick, and the second pick.
Right,
all top 10 picks.
And here they are again, 10, 15 years later, they got another wide receiver. I'll tell you what the ways are. Was it the Detroit? You said you were throwing a shoe if somebody drafted.
It was Detroit. Yeah.
So if they do take Devontae Smith, I will tell you, I will draft Devontae Smith. He will be drafted by somebody in our fantasy league. And will you still throw a shoe at him?
I will throw my shoe. I will actually throw a shoe if it's at my house this year again. I will walk in my chicken coop and make sure there's chicken crap all over my shoe, and I'll throw it at your head. That's how mad I will be at you.
And John, for your information, there was a linebacker taken the year after, and then Calvin Johnson. So 3 out of 4.
Man.
3 out of 4 years.
4 out of 5. 4 out of 5.
4 out of 5.
Yeah.
They took a wide receiver in the top 10, and they finally hit on Megatron with the number 2 overall pick.
So gross. So such a bad.
And it was probably really. I mean, they took Stafford with the first overall pick after that.
Smith's gonna get killed out there. Like with Goff throwing him the ball, he won't even make it through the season.
So
all right.
bad.
So Carolina Panthers. This is interesting. So they have Justin Fields going right here for the Carolina Panthers. Them taking a QB.
I don't like that.
And which kind of knocks the hole, isn't it? They have Sam Darnold.
Yeah,
go through all this exercise.
Right. And again, Sam Darnold's on the end of his rookie deal, so they don't have to be married to him. And I don't know. Like, I don't know why they traded for Sam Darnold. If he's the same thing as Teddy Bridgewater. Teddy Bridgewater has another year left on his deal. They signed him. It's the same thing as Sam Darnold. I guess Sam Darnold's ceiling's higher. I would rather have Darnold than Bridgewater. But they didn't extend Darnold. So that's why that pick is still being referenced at a quarterback. If they traded for Darnold and extended him, forget it. But you're seeing a lot of Carolina taking one of the quarterbacks because I think that they think they can get Fields or Lance. I don't think they can get Fields or Lance, so I don't think they're taking a quarterback.
Now, in your scenario, when did they have or no? Did you have Lance going number 2? Jarvis? No.
So Lance is still there in my scenario.
Yeah, Lance would be still available,
but not in his. But I don't think. I still don't think they're going to take Lance. Like, so they had Fields. Burt Breer had Fields going there. I don't see them taking. I don't see them taking a quarterback.
What do you see them doing?
Well, I actually see them taking. In John's scenario, I would imagine them taking Pitts. I think if Atlanta takes Lance. Then they would be dumb to not take Pitts to give a weapon. But I think they could actually reach up and take one of those cornerbacks right there. I think they need help on defense. I think looking at what Tampa is, looking at the Saints, and granted, I don't know what the Saints have at quarterback, but you still got to cover Michael Thomas. You still got to cover Godwin and Evans. And who's the other team in that division? There's
Tampa.
No, Tampa, Saints. Oh, the Falcons, and you still got to cover Calvin Ridley and Julio. That division is loaded with skill. So I think they match that up, and I know that Dallas has been all over Surtain. I mean, every mock draft has Dallas taking Patrick Surtain,
even in this one.
Yeah, so I mean, the other guy is J.C. Horn, who I don't think is as high as Patrick Surtain, but I give them a cornerback. I give them Surtain right there.
Wow. Okay.
So here's the thing with that though. So I know again, to go to who they have a need for, right? And I've heard some sources say they have a need for a quarterback. They have Bridgewater. They brought in Darnold for a reason. I just can't imagine them going with a quarterback there. They also just signed AJ Bouye for where they desperately needed help at the cornerback position.
But he's old. He's getting old.
He got hurt last year, but he was still like pretty decent the year before that. They just brought him in because they needed help in that position. So I don't think they go for one of the quarterbacks just based off of that. I think Parsons here, they probably, think of Kuechly, right, for so many years there. And they're like, oh, but Parsons would be kind of like the next guy there. But instead, in my mock draft, I say Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts, they need a tight end.
Yeah.
they still have in my mock draft, Kyle Pitts is still available. With Darnold there now, they're going to need more help in that offense overall, and and it will also help use as
CMC.
a blocker for CMC exactly, and
Yeah.
help CMC with that offensive game. If Darnold starts seeing ghosts again, maybe he could just dump it off to Pitts. Maybe they need to just give him a little bit of help there. So, you know who the tight end there now is? Guy by the name of Dan Arnold, not Sam Darnold. Dan Arnold, not to be confused with Sam Darnold. It's Dan Arnold. Exactly. So who the hell is that? So I think the pick here makes sense. I think it gives CMC a little bit of help on the offense. I think Kyle Pitts the last here to 8th. I just can't imagine. They need a tight end, so why not Kyle Pitts? I think that's my reasoning behind that.
I like it. They have so many needs though on defense too. I just feel like it'd be tough for them to pass on a defensive pick there because they could put up points last year, even with with CMC and like that disjointed team. They were putting up points. They were just playing from behind all the time. But anyways, that's interesting. So if we go to 9, that brings us to the Broncos. Now we know the Broncos on most of the mock drafts is looking for a quarterback. So this is going to be intriguing. So at this point, who is left for you, Jarvis? Is Trey
Lance?
Trey Lance. Is that who you have going to the Broncos?
Yeah, he does. They don't. They quarterback all day for them.
So here where I'm gonna disagree a little bit because
Shocker.
well, my 4 quarterbacks have already been taken in my mock draft. So I'm not 100% convinced that they're sold on Drew Lock, but I do think they want to give him another opportunity. I think he was just good enough. They want to give him another chance there. So with the top 4 QBs gone, they're I do think they like Justin Fields. By the way, I did read that their GM and their coach attended his pro day. But I think he's going to be gone by then, so they're stuck. They're not going to take him. So I think they're going to go with someone that they desperately need, and that's a linebacker. I think this is where Jarvis might be a little disappointed to hear this. He isn't slipping to the Pats. I think Parsons goes here. I think Denver Broncos goes with that middle, that do it all linebacker in Parsons. I think that it fills a need for them.
Now, why not Mac Jones?
Because the Patriots going to take Mac Jones.
Because that will ruin my draft experience, Azar. That's why.
So you're leaving like a big nugget out there. You're like, well, if there's no one else, and it's like, well, there is somebody else. Technically, there is.
Yeah, but you haven't heard anything. Like nothing has been talked about Denver wanting to get Mac Jones. There's no buzz at all around that. And like I said, I think Drew Lock is the guy that they want to give him one more chance there in Denver. Denver's not that far off from being, a solid team. I think they could do better at quarterback. They do need a tackle, but they also need a linebacker. And why not get the best linebacker, and probably the best linebacker coming out of college in years in Parsons, so, that's why I'm just thinking, I don't hear anything about Mac Jones. At this point, the best tackle in the league is gone. There's still a couple other good tackles, but I think the linebacker, Parsons, I think he's going to end up going to Denver.
So you're going with Parsons to Denver. Okay, I'm just writing that down. So Lance for Jarvis, and that's what Burt Breer in his mock draft has Lance going to Denver. So Meat is really bucking and changing what people think. Now, I'm going to go different. I'm going to go back to this Parsons guy later for you, because it's relevant to this particular mock draft. All right, so for 10th overall pick is going to the Dallas Cowboys. Now, in Jarvis's situation, like he mentioned it earlier, Surtain is all over the Cowboys. That's all we hear about. If in your situation, Jarvis, if Surtain goes earlier, are they going for the next best corner?
Yeah, I have them at J.C. Horn.
J.C. Horn.
Yeah,
okay.
I think they've identified their need and they're falling in love with the position and that they can get best available. I think they panic when Surtain goes to the Panthers and they'll grab Horn.
Okay. All right, Big Meat. What's your prediction?
I have Surtain still available. I think I think everything you're reading is Surtain. I think he's the guy that goes there. You would think they might go old lineman here because I just think Jerry Jones, right? Like he loves the big old lineman, right? Open up holes for Zeke, so his talent doesn't get wasted. even protect their massive investment in Dak Prescott when he comes back. But yeah, I see them going with the best quarterback here in Surtain. You mentioned it in the last round there, in who's in their division. Well, in Dallas's division, you got Galladay, who just went to the Giants. Washington still has scary Terry McLaurin, right? I think they need a shutdown corner there. I think Surtain's going to be the guy.
Cool. I like it. Now, let's just move on to the Giants, 11th pick. So they, at this particular mock draft, they have him taking a defensive end, Kwity Paye. Is that how you pronounce it?
Kwity Paye.
I think so.
Yeah. All right. I don't want an R3 text to bash me.
He just doesn't have a good name, though, Azar. Kwity.
He doesn't. It's not a football name.
It's not a football name.
It's Quitter. It's Quitty. I'm quitting. He's already quit in the name.
So R3 likes him.
Okay. It's tough to argue that. That might be his favorite player.
Might be.
Right.
No, I think at this point here, you mentioned it earlier with the edge rushers. I don't think I don't have any edge rusher going in the top 15 here. I think at this point here, Rashawn Slater is the next offensive tackle here. I think he's he gave up. I think he's only allowed 5 pressures in his college career. Like he's never. It's crazy like how good this guy is, and he's still not the best tackle in the draft. They went offense right in free agency with Galladay. What they need is defense and a lot of it, but defensive end, they need a linebacker, they need a quarter, they need a lot, right? Parsons would have been great here, but in my estimation, he'd be gone. You just can't pass up on this good offensive lineman here in Rashawn Slater. So it helps give Daniel Jones some more time to throw to his new toy in Galladay.
Or how about Saquon Barkley not getting murdered at the line of scrimmage?
And right, I was gonna say opening up some holes for Barkley. They have a decent O-line already. I just think they could move this guy, all over the place. They can move him. I think he was was he a tackle? I think he was a tackle in college, but I think he's capable. He's versatile to play all up and down the line. So yeah, I'm not completely sold on this pick, but I think this guy's he if it wasn't for Sewell, everybody would be talking about this guy going pretty high up there. I think the Giants have a need for a tackle. That's where he ends up going.
Yeah, I agree. We agree. Yeah.
Later. Wow. Okay. Back on track, boys. All right. So that brings us to the Eagles, who they had in this mock draft slated for a cornerback. Now you guys have 2 corners taken. Oh, actually, Meat, you do not. You have Surtain taken. But they have J.C. Horn was picked here for the for the Philadelphia Eagles. So I guess in your scenario, Jarvis, who do you see them taking?
Waddle.
They're taking a receiver. Okay.
Damn, I have to agree with you, Jarvis. So Waddle is the guy I'm going with. And there's a reason, right? So last year they drafted Jalen Reagor. You guys might have remembered his name when I drafted him in fantasy football. He was their first round pick last year, right? And he was supposed to be like the do-it-all kind of slash, like type receiver, right? And I still think they really like him, but they want to give their new quarterback, your boy, Azar, Jalen Hurts, they want to give him some more help. And when they asked Jalen Hurts, who is the best prospect coming out of Alabama, who he played with, he said Jalen Waddle. So, and that's not because they have the same pronouncing name either, right? That would be kind of neat, right? Jalen throwing to Jalen, and Jalen Reagor, who they drafted. So you get like 3 Jalens on the team there, like throwing to Jalen.
It's like a Bugs Bunny team.
Yeah, it's like I think it's just meant to be for the quarterback to be named Jalen, throwing to 2 guys also named Jalen. So I think this is where he ends up. I think it just kind of fits. And like I said, Jalen Hurts, right? He's the man now, right? Wentz is gone. I think they might have listened to him a little bit and say, hey, get me Waddle here, who I played with before at Alabama, and we can we can put together a pretty good offense.
Now, to keep Jarvis honest, we had Detroit either taking Waddle. There's also Smith was available. So I guess in Philly.
So we'll go Smith. If we go Smith to Detroit, we'll go Waddle here. That's why I said that. I just figured Smith was the Heisman winner. We had discussed. I'll be true to my discussion with John that Smith was who we
Okay,
said.
so you
would
guys
go
are in
first.
agreement then. Smith going to Detroit, Waddle going to
Waddle
Philly.
going
Okay.
to Philly.
We better hit that one, Jarvis, because
I
know if we hit that Waddle goes to the Eagles, oh man, that's
man.
like I'll be giving you an air high five.
That's right.
An air high five. All right. So the Chargers
from Middle Earth to here.
So the Chargers are the 13th pick. They have in this mock draft, they have Slater as the need. I don't disagree. I think they need some offensive line help in Los Angeles now. I apologize. But now that if he's gone, do they take Tucker, the guard from USC?
So I don't have Tucker as the next guard. I have the kid out of Virginia Tech, Christian Darrisaw. He had actually the highest grade of any offensive tackle in the Power 5 conferences in 2020. He didn't have a single issue or any knock on him from start to finish on the season. He's 315 pounds. He allowed 6 pressures over the entire season, didn't allow a single sack or a QB hit. So he only allowed 6 pressures, not any contact on a QB. I think 6'5", 315 pounds. That's a hoss of a human being. And they need to protect Herbert to make my fantasy football prediction come true.
You do have a man crush. Yes, he is. He's the future.
He's the future. So I have Darrisaw there. I do see what you were saying about Tucker being up there, but I actually have Darrisaw on my list, kind of just higher based on that dominance.
Okay, Meat, do you agree?
I don't agree. No, I think Herbert and that offense, they lost too many games last year in shootouts. They need to solidify a little bit of that defense. They need a cornerback. Here's where J.C. Horn goes. I think he slides all the way to the Chargers here. They need to keep those games a little bit closer. Herbert, has proven that he could run that offense and score a lot of points. They do need offensive line help, Azar. I do agree with you there. But at this point here, yeah, I think Tucker, right? You mentioned him. He might be a good fit there too. But J.C. Horn is just sitting there, and he's almost as good as Surtain. I think he's right up there. Those 2 cornerbacks are going to have long careers. I think, again, it goes back to the shootout. It goes back to Herbert, putting up 30, 40 points and losing, 40 to 38 or whatever. They go with the next best defensive guy there in Horn.
Okay. Not a bad pick. I mean, he was in the mock draft. He's pretty high anyway. So Horn going in the mock draft we have with Brett Breer, he has him going 12th. You're having him going the 13th pick. So nothing crazy there. I think you're onto something.
What was his name again, Azar?
Bert Breer.
Jesus.
I'm gonna call him BB. Can I call him just BB? I just don't say his name enough. All right. We're getting close, boys. We're getting close. Let's not get sloppy and pick on me here for no reason here. Bastards. All right. So the next is the Vikings. And our buddy BB here is going to take has them taking Tucker, an offensive guard. I can't keep saying Bert Breer. It's just I just don't know why. But he has them taking Tucker as the offensive guard from USC in this pick. What are you guys thinking?
Yeah, so their biggest need is at tackle and guard, and technically, so that's the thing is I had this Vera Tucker. He's actually the highest guard because he played both tackle and guard. He's kind of like an Isaiah Wynn, that swing type lineman, but they need somebody that can play either position. So he actually benefits the Vikings more than one of these stud tackles. Not that he's better. Obviously, those stud tackles would be great, but his versatility of having the experience of going in and out actually makes him a little bit better of a fit. And they're a run heavy team. I mean, if you had Dalvin Cook in the last 2 years, you know what I'm talking about. I mean, that Vikings team just runs, and they put up.
Jarvis would know.
I would know.
You would know.
Oh yeah, and he was a monster. What a monster! I mean, that guy. So I mean, they need somebody that can swing out, pick off on a screen because they got Cook's swing swing passes, screen passes. They got inside runs, outside runs. I think that Tucker makes the most sense there. They need offensive line help bad.
I agree with both Jarvis and BB. So their O line is a mess. Their O line is a mess. They released their left tackle Riley Wright for cap relief. Right, I think he was a good left tackle, but they had to get rid of him. So they either go for Tucker here. I think maybe Christian Darrisaw might be the other guy. I say Tucker because of that reason, because he can play tackle and guard. They need both. They could probably switch. Maybe they even who knows? Maybe like based on some of the other guys that they have, or maybe they draft some guy later in the draft and they try it out. And if he's plays well at guard, then they put Tucker at tackle. If they have a tackle and he plays it, they'll move it at guard. They have that flexibility to do that. So, yeah, I think he's the guy. I think there might be better offensive tackles than this guy, but the fact that he's a better fit for the Vikings because he could be tackle or guard. So.
Now, surprisingly, no defensive help for the Vikings?
No, I mean they need an edge rusher, and I think they need a safety, but there's no real good safety at this point. I mean, edge rushers, like I said, there's some good ones, but I think you have an opportunity to get this, great. I'm looking at a value. Who's better? Is Tucker better as an offensive lineman than say Kwity Paye as an edge rusher? I think it's
a better name.
Yeah. How do you say his first name? Elijah Vera Tucker?
Yeah, I think so.
That's a pretty strong football name right there. That sounds good. Tucker.
Strong football name.
When all else fails, just go by the name. How good does it sound?
That's right. And they did draft a lineman a few years ago named Kaneki Udeze from USC, and nobody could pronounce it. Goodell pronounced it one way. Mike Zimmer was was Mike Zimmer? Who was the big guy that they had back in the day? That they had wasn't Mike Zimmer. Anyway, they all said, like, all three of them said the kid's name, and they all said it a different way. Nobody knew what the hell the kid's name was. It was Kaneki, and Kanechi, all different names. So they're taking terrible names up there.
Yeah.
All right, pick 15.
Keep the name simple. Here it is.
Can
I go first on this one?
Yeah, please do.
All right. Well, look at people have been waiting an hour. Like, we've gone through this. It took us an hour to get through the first 14 picks. So this is what everybody's been waiting for. This is where it comes down to the Patriots' 15th pick. So I think we should let the guests go first.
No. Let him go first.
Are you sure?
I defer. Listen, I respect the podcast. Meat has his name on the rights. He can go first.
All right. Big Meat, try to contain yourself here. Keep it in your pants.
The only reason why I wanted to go first is because you obviously know who I'm saying here, right? I don't know who Jarvis is going to say here. So I'm going to say, obviously, it's Mac Jones. I'm going to stick with the guy that I've been saying all along that's going to be there for the Patriots. It's likely that they just trade down and get some guy we've never really heard of before. But I do think they stick with this, and if Mac Jones is there, I'm convinced. I'm convinced if Mac Jones is there at 15, I don't know how confident I am that they're going to take Mac Jones. There's no way they don't take Mac Jones here. He's the guy. I've been saying it all along. It's no secret. That's my take.
All right. Look, Jarvis can't even contain himself. He's laughing so hard. So,
I can't because this is what you've been waiting for, Azar. The battle of the butt. Here it is. The Patriots are going to pass on Mac Jones. They're going to let him slide right by pick 15.
Man.
See you later. He is gone. He is going to be taken later. They are going to take later. Right. They are going to take the linebacker from Tulsa, Zaven Collins. He's a Swiss Army knife linebacker, right? Bill can pull his pud to him all day long, put him everywhere. They said he's like an elite, like Kyle Van Noy type, and Kyle Van Noy was a first-round pick by the Lions. And so I think that that's the pick. I think they're going to let Mac Jones go right by because of their weird draft board value. They're going to trade a pick on day 2 for Jimmy Garoppolo, and welcome to the new era of New England football.
So what, Collins?
Zaven Collins out of Tulsa.
So you know what's funny, Jarvis, is that I originally had Parsons here when we first talked about doing this, and then I said, you know what, Jarvis is going to pick Parsons here, so I don't want to pick Parsons too. So I went back and said, look, I got to stick with my Mac Jones pick, and then I put a bonus prediction in there, and I said, if not Mac Jones, I know this is kind of cheating, right? You can't say two guys, but the other guy that I was thinking of also was Zaven Collins. So I'm kind of glad I didn't stick with Zaven Collins, and then have you say Zaven. So here I am avoiding Parsons, say Collins, and then you end up saying Collins too. So it's there's no edge rushers taken in the first 15. Like I said, it's the weakest part of this year's draft. If you're gonna pick somebody else, and somebody that Belichick tends to do this, right? He drafts a guy that nobody really knows about, or right. And I think Zaven Collins is that guy because why? It's his versatility, right? He could kind of move all over the place. He's kind of a do-it-all outside linebacker. He could be an edge rusher. He's smart. Everything you read about him, he's a team-oriented guy. He's very disciplined. Everything that Bill loves. He's somebody that it's like he would fit perfectly in the Patriot system. Unfortunately, Mac Jones is going to be sitting there for him, and that's who he's going to end up.
Now,
So-
let me ask you guys. So, first, Burt Breer has Parsons as his 15th pick. So, right there, you kind of what you were thinking. That's what is in the mock draft. So, I would say Mac Jones is more likely to go to the Broncos. Now, I'm curious with the Collins pick. Why not? And I was just looking at some of the other names that follow right after this pick. Parsons, there are names like
Parsons has character issues. He sat out last year and he has character issues.
What about
But I don't think
what about
that
Davis
would,
from Kentucky?
I don't think that would ever stop Belichick. By the way,
So you're right.
Parsons
Parsons is the best linebacker on the board, right? So I'm not saying that he doesn't deserve to be picked high or anything like that. It's not really what I'm just Bill. If you like, so what really got me to this pick was kind of what we talked about the last podcast where it was going through the Patriots draft and how terrible it's been in recent years, but not so much terrible, but how good he's been at picking, mid to high, middle high first round picks, specifically defensive players. And I think that this guy kind of fits that, like, geez, Bill picked this guy out. There's no flaws with him. I was listening to a show, not on, the afternoon on 98.5, and they were talking about this guy actually dominating games, affecting the outcome of a game to the point where his play single-handedly kept Tulsa in or on top in many games with turnovers, with key plays. Like, the guy just sniffs the ball out at key moments, like almost like that, high tower in the playoffs where he just seemed to always get a sack right at the crunch time when you needed it, or a fumble or whatever. This guy in his highlight reel was hitting plays at unbelievably opportune times. The guy's a playmaker. And if he didn't go to Tulsa, if he went to one of these higher end schools, we'd probably be talking about him in the top 10. And I just, like, Belichick's going to be like, I don't need to trade down 2 or 3 picks. And he might trade down and try to get him, but
yeah,
and you know what, John, out of for content purposes, I purposely had Mac Jones slide down the draft just so I could let him go by the Patriots and really drive that point home. So I think if I did this again, maybe it would come out slightly different, but for what I'm putting on the record, Mac Jones slides by the Patriots at 15, just so.
Look,
I think Collins is the guy they take. I do think Mac Jones will probably go. I think all the quarterbacks are going to go. I think there's going to be some trades that change what our picks are, but we didn't factor in trades. So that aside, I think Mac Jones is not going to be. He's not going to be picked by the Patriots at 15, more likely because of a trade. But to stick it to you, you're just going to have to eat it watching him slide right by 15.
I think the only way the Patriots don't take him is if the 49ers do in fact take him number 3 overall. And then I think it just comes to the point where Belichick might just trade down. I think he'll trade down and end up getting Zaven Collins, 20th overall, whatever. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I think if Mac Jones is there, I'm basing it just based on the fact that if Mac Jones is going to be there at 15, that's who he ends up taking. But, yeah, it's funny that you mentioned Zaven Collins. He was the guy that I was like, he was going to be my surprise. Like, all right, here's my bonus prediction, Zaven Collins. because he's not the most talented guy, but he is. You're right. He's a playmaker. He fits exactly what Belichick is looking for.
Can I intervene just 1 second? So Collins, where is he going in most mock drafts? Because I don't see him on
No,
players.
it's to the Patriots or like 5-10 picks later.
Okay, so why would the Patriots not trade away the 15th pick?
Because
and
that
just go down?
wouldn't make this extra. That was not part of this exercise.
Okay.
And the fact that Mac Jones is there.
Okay.
Azar, to your point, though, I also don't think that Davis fits their system. That's why I don't think they take him. I think he's more of that Seattle, so that Seattle, Baltimore, the recent Jacksonville defense where it was that like cover 3 corners plays, on the outside, and just that linebacker plays that middle of the field role. And Belichick uses the linebackers in a more versatile way and doesn't rely on the deep coverage to do that bracketed blanket. He kind of likes to mix up his exotic defenses. So I don't think Davis is the guy for him. I think the opposite is Collins, who can be moved all over the field and you have no idea whether he's coming or going.
Yeah. Okay.
Interesting. I mean, there are some, there are still some good players that are going to go. They're going to still be available. I mentioned Kwity Paye. He's one guy that's going to still be the Jalen Phillips. He's an edge rusher out of Miami.
Farley's another cornerback that he has some injury concern, but he was ranked really high. I mean, in order for me to get this exercise out, Parsons actually falls past the Patriots. So, I mean, they could take Parsons. I would be happy if they take Parsons, Collins, or Mac Jones. I get nervous about Mac Jones because are they going to take him and start him? If they take him and start him, I'm in for the pick. If they take him and don't start him, then it's a waste of a player that's not going to impact the team this year. So it's kind of like a deferred first-round pick. So I don't love that. But if they pick Jones and start him, I'd love that. But any one of combination of those 3, I'm really on board with. So, I wouldn't hate if Satarakis was right. I would hate Satarakis being right, but, I don't hate what he's standing for.
We all do. So let's.
It's my hatred for Cam Newton has a little bit to do.
Yeah, so much hatred.
So you would appreciate that.
So as we kind of wind down, let's put away the mock draft and the Patriots moving up, down, whatever. Offense or defense? What are they taking this draft? Where do you think they're going?
Like later after the first round?
No. Just in your heart, what is your not your heart, your gut? What is your gut telling you they're doing in the first pick? What is their first pick in this draft? Is it an offensive player or a defensive player? What's your gut telling you?
We just did this.
You really?
I was going to say.
So
do you need me to tell you Mac Jones again? Yes,
all
I'm
right,
sold on
so
Mac Jones. He's the guy.
Yeah.
Okay. But if Mac Jones isn't there, then they go with Parsons. I mean, if Parsons not, it's got to be somebody who ends up being available. I don't think Belichick is thinking, hey, I'm going to take an offensive guy no matter what, who's there. I think
an offensive lineman is an offensive guy. That's what I'm saying, because he does like offensive linemen. And in the last 6 drafts, I heard this stat, he has taken an offensive lineman. So he likes his offensive lineman.
Right. There's Barmore, there's Darisaw. There's a couple
he's got Onwenu. He took Onwenu in the 6th round. He took Wynn in the 1st round.
Yeah, and I think their offensive line's pretty strong.
They just invested money.
It needs depth.
Offensive
line always.
But you can get depth. You draft starters at the top. You draft depth later on. I think they can draft. Okay. Belichick's pretty good about picking, third through 5th round linemen. I think he can pull a big fatty out. Like Joe Tooney was a 3rd rounder.
I think they do need a cornerback. I think that's another one of their needs. But there's no other cornerback that's really good. Greg Newsome. I guess
what's funny?
Okay.
This is the year of cornerback, sons. Surtain's father was a cornerback. Joe Horn, his son is this kid, and Ozzie Newsome's kid is this Newsome kid. So it's this is the year of the pedigree.
That's true.
No, but I think that I truly think that all that money they invested on offense. I know that they signed the big Matt Judon, but he's kind of an outside edge guy, and I think they signed him because he's pissed off at Winovich, which goes to I don't know if Winovich was a hit draft pick argument, but I think Judon is there to solidify that edge, not like the Chandler Jones type thing, not so much moving inside with. I think Collins and Parsons either one would be the pick. It could really be like stand up inside, fill the A gap, back off, cover, a tight end coming out, or swing around on a stunt and then blitz or rush from the edge. I think that's the guy that he's going to want that green dot player. And I don't think that.
I think he's going to be a good player.
I want him to be. The guy's entertaining as hell. But
step up this year.
God, they just keep benching him. They bench like 15 snaps in a game. Come on.
Yeah.
You're not going to be a. You're going to
get third year. This is usually where the players step up. By the third year. If I did have an honorable mention, if they don't take Mac Jones, they still need a quarterback. At some point, they're going to draft a quarterback in this draft. If Mac Jones, say, goes earlier to Denver or whatever. There's a couple of guys on there that I've mentioned them before. Kellen Mond is a big name out of Texas A&M. He could end up being there in the second or third round. And Kyle Trask is another guy out of Florida who, has been rumored that he would be a perfect fit for the Patriots as well. Those guys are going to be available second round, maybe even third round.
Right.
Who knows? Maybe they get, Parsons, or they get whoever they want to get, Zaven Collins in the first round, and they still get a good quarterback that they can hopefully take over.
That's why I think they pass
Newton.
on Mac. That's why I think they pass on Mac Jones, because for them, I think Bill's graded draft board has Jones being lower than the 15th, so they can trade down for him. But I don't think they can trade that 15 pick. I think they have to take somebody. I think Bill deep down knows the pressure from the fan base is there. If he's going to roll with Cam Newton, you can't be trading out of picks. You need to take something that gets this fan base galvanized and rallies around what he's doing. Because right now, Cam Newton is absolutely just. I mean, I know you got R3s and Antifas of the world that sweat his Johnson, but nobody else does. Nobody else does.
And to go back to my last point with Mac Jones. Mac Jones excels at those short dump off passes, 10 yards, right? He's the most accurate quarterback coming out of college in doing that. Yeah, sure, his deep pass isn't the most accurate, but he does exactly what Cam Newton cannot do. It's like the worst thing that Cam Newton, it's his worst quality. Mac Jones does that to perfection. So
I would love Mac Jones because just for that. I mean, the difference was he was throwing to the two most wide open receivers in all of football. So you caveat that a little bit, but I don't even care. I don't even care. Bring him in.
He can hit them. Can he hit the receivers? That's
all that
matters.
It doesn't matter because it's not can he, it's Cam cannot. So
maybe Belichick changes the game and he uses two quarterbacks, right? When he wants a quarterback to run, right? He throws in Cam Newton. If they want to throw him a Hail Mary deep pass, it's Cam Newton. If you want to just dump it off to James White and his tight ends, it's Mac Jones.
That's it. Oh my God.
So a 50-50 split.
Sure. I'd even take that. I'd even take that.
I got to say, Jarvis saying that Belichick is going to do something because he needs to galvanize it. If anybody that doesn't give a shit about anybody else's opinion, it's Belichick. I don't think he gives there's not a thought in his mind that goes by, hey, what do you think the fans think about this pick? He does not give a shit
at all.
Never will.
Nope.
And that is the false hope that Jarvis is taking on.
But they're not numb, right? He's not numb, and here's why is that Linda Holiday has snapped back on Instagram to some people, throwing shade at Bill. She snapped back on Instagram and had to delete the post because I'm sure Bill was like, "The fuck is wrong with you?" But so
does he do it with a backhand? Does he?
No, I'm sure he's like.
If Bill Belichick was in our fantasy league,
delete your Insta face.
If he was in our fantasy football league and we shitted on Joe Mixon, week after week after week, Belichick would still sit there in the first round and say, you know what, I'm taking Joe Mixon. He doesn't care. You're right. He doesn't care what anybody else thinks.
He does not
care. If he likes Joe Mixon, he's taking Joe Mixon. He doesn't care if Mr. Roper's belly laughing in the corner or if you're throwing your shoe at him. He's going to take who he wants to take. So you're right. Yeah. You're right. Nobody knows in the mind of Bill Belichick.
The reason I say that is not that he needs to make the fans happy. He needs to do something that puts the buzz back, and I think that he
thinks Cam Newton is the buzz. That's the problem. He thinks Cam Newton is the buzz. The way he talks about Cam.
I think he just likes him as a person. I think he likes his grit. I think he likes his leadership. I think he just likes him.
I just
for
want to
that
believe
reason.
you
No,
guys
it's none
are
of that.
wrong.
It's none of that. Everybody's telling him Cam Newton is a good quarterback. He's like, no, I'm the expert. I am telling you he's a good quarterback, and I will play him in spite of all you people. That's the problem.
Right.
He is
You're
a
not
stubborn
wrong.
bastard.
You're not wrong.
But if he drafts a
And I
quarterback,
freaking hate it.
if he drafts a quarterback, Mac Jones or Kellen Mond or Trask, then that kind of tells you right there, like, hey, Cam Newton's not the long-term answer.
Yeah, but I don't want him. I don't want him to be. I don't want him even to be on the ballot of question. Like, I don't even want him to be a multiple choice answer on the question. Like, I don't want him to be a short-term answer at quarterback. I don't even want his name on the test. Like, I need something to remove him.
So there is a rumor Patricia is part of is in Bill's ear, like supporting the draft process and the draft board. So
nobody knows what Patricia's role with when he came back. Like his role is
there's
like
rumors.
weird.
It's like so, but he might pick a defense. Like he might be working with him to pick out a defensive player.
Patricia was terrible too.
Azar, would you rather have them cut Cam Newton or N'Keal Harry? You have one choice. You have to keep one.
I'd rather keep N'Keal Harry and get rid of Cam Newton.
I mean, you don't hate N'Keal Harry.
I don't like. You could bury N'Keal Harry in the bench, like he can be forgotten. Cam Newton is a centerpiece that he.
I'd be happy if you bury him on the bench and forget him. We can do that with Cam.
Yeah, I wish we could, but I think.
Azar, who do you think the Patriots are taking? Let's get your take on this. You take Snake. How about that? What is your forget picks 1 through 14? Who are the Patriots taking?
I would have to say,
Mac Jones.
No, I don't see Mac Jones. I think it's going to be a defensive player. It's going to be someone like Parsons. I see that as I don't know if I'm stuck on Parsons. I just think they're going to take the best available defensive player that gets to them in that position.
Quiddy Pay?
If I hate the name, maybe I'll have to get the jersey just when I go to the games. Now that
he is a Michigan guy, though. Yeah, that's the thing. He is a Michigan guy, and Bill likes him some Michigan.
Yeah.
What college was the Bill every year would always draft?
So that guys. You're thinking of Rutgers, right?
Rutgers. I'm sorry, not Purdue.
Yeah. Actually, it was only 2 years in a row. He took McCourty and Logan Ryan, and I think Daron Harmon, and they were in the same draft. So it was a falsity that it was a fallacy that he actually took Rutgers for like a lot. Because I thought the same thing. But when I was doing this, I went back and looked, and I actually pulled like what colleges, and he only has taken, I think, just those 3 from Rutgers. Because I was surprised. Yeah, it was. Oh, he's only drafted 4 players from Rutgers all time, and it was between 2013 and 14. No, it was only 2013 and 14, those 2 drafts, and he took 4 players total from Rutgers.
Okay. So it was just like that little stretch.
It's just that little pocket he took. He just drafted the Rutgers defense. Yeah. And the whole defensive backfield. It was like Logan Ryan, Devin McCourty, Daron Harmon, and somebody else, and like all of them played the same defensive backfield.
You know what? It worked out for him though.
Yeah, they did all right. All right.
He does well drafting defense. That's why I'm thinking that's where he's going to go. He's going to go with his comfort level. So, and then maybe take Trask in the second round. Maybe that's what it's going to be.
That's a terrible name too. Trask sounds like trash.
That's why he's never seen John Wick. He just doesn't like the name.
He just doesn't like the name. That's not the same thing. You know, the Quiddy Pay. Who's coming off your end? Oh, it's Quiddy. Hope he doesn't Quiddy Pay quits on the play. Like, come on, it's too easy. You know, Trask. Oh, who's your quarterback? I don't know, but he's Trask. I mean, trash.
I'm just excited, even just for the Eagles, if they get Jalen Waddle. I want to see the marketing, the marketing behind that. The Jalen times 3. They're gonna come up with some kind of.
It'll be like a Bugs Bunny spoof where it's like Jalen back to pass. Jalen throws the ball deep. Jalen cutting. You know what I mean? It's gonna be like one of those things where it's like Jalen to Jalen touchdown. Jalen.
It's gonna be like some big thing. Like I'm telling you, their marketing department is salivating right now.
I don't think anybody from Philadelphia is smart enough to do that though. Bunch of cheese whiz heads.
Well, you know what?
It's a good thing our podcast doesn't reach out to the Philadelphia.
Not yet. No, I'm telling you what I'm actually excited for now in this draft beyond the Patriots. I'm really excited to see what Detroit does. Will they take another receiver as their first overall
I
in
can't
the first
wait.
round? I just
They got to
can't
go
wait.
back to what works. They got to go back to what works.
Yeah,
Who-
now
who- let
that
me-
is
let-
that's the most intriguing that
So
I'm going to see.
speaking of that, just one final thing here is we were talking about earlier. I was saying Devontae Smith before Waddle. Do you guys agree? Did you guys think Waddle was going before Smith?
Well,
or-
the mock drafts had Waddle, but Jarvis changed to Smith like you in that pick.
Okay.
So you guys both have Smith.
because I'd be curious to see like in the draft like who goes first, which Alabama
Okay.
receiver goes
Well,
first.
in order for the Eagles to come through with their Bugs Bunny marketing, we need to see Smith go first. Because if Waddle goes first, that's kaput.
Yeah.
Okay, I put that as a note, like what we need to see. All right, so I think that's a wrap, boys. I think that we just thoroughly went through the draft.
How many picks did we agree on, John?
Got
So we
I
had
know
Tucker,
two.
One.
Tucker,
two.
Slater.
Oh well,
Smith.
the first two
First-
count.
Do those count though? Really? I have us counting the first two. I have us at 5,
3,
Yeah, 33%.
6.
4. I
We
have
had-
Can we say 6.5 for Zaven Collins? Can you give us a half?
No, get off.
I
that.
have
point
4.
credit for that.
I have 4.
No, we had Tucker, Waddle, Slater, Smith.
Yep. Oh, you got. Yep. That's
Lawrence, Wilson. Going from the bottom up.
Oh, yeah, I didn't count the first 2 picks. I'm sorry. So yeah, so 6. You're right. I didn't count the first 2 because
Yeah.
those are like consensus.
Not bad.
What do we got? Like 35, 40% there?
Yeah,
Mm.
pretty good.
And I mean,
I
I
like
could have gone with Mac Jones and made it a 48 or percenter, but it's just not what's going to happen. so.
Those the draft picks that carry so much more weight because like we're going to be watching those draft picks because if
I
we're
know.
wrong, we're both wrong.
We're both wrong.
So those are the big ones. Those are
Yeah.
like that just it's more they count as more points, if you will, if those
All
are
right.
right.
It's awesome. I can't wait for Thursday night now. I'm gonna be
John,
going down this list as
I'm
it's
going
going.
to end on a nice note, John. I compliment your analysis of the Atlanta draft pick. I think that was your most insightful, different pick.
Thank you.
I will
Thank
give
you.
you that.
Thank you.
That was nice.
Yes.
Don't fluff his ego,
Yes.
please. For God's.
He's going to have nothing. Azar, he's going to have nothing left when Mac Jones gets passed on by the Patriots. So at least he has that.
I just can't wait 15 years from now when Trevor Lawrence is being inducted into the Hall of Fame. And I'm gonna play this podcast back saying that you said he was not even the third, or what did you say?
No.
Like he was the third best quarterback in this draft.
Not even.
All right.
Not even. All right, boys. All right. So we covered a lot. I think we're going to wrap it up there. We'll save it for Thursday night. We'll do a quick episode to add to this to see how close we were with our picks and what the Patriots did, and we'll break down the Patriots pick. Hopefully they do something on Thursday night. If not, we'll be getting together for no absolute other than just to trash our picks. But other than that, boys, I'm going to wrap it up there.
Good fight.
I like it. Not a lot of
Good night.
fighting. But you know what?
That's
The
good.
debate, there will be some serious debating after this draft. So
Not
next
a lot
week-
of fighting, but oh man, the fireworks on the last pick. Mac
Yeah.
Jones sailing right by.
Yeah. Next week's going to be interesting. How
Because it's
bearable.
too easy, John. It's too easy. It makes too
Well,
much
you know,
sense.
I gotta
It's not
say,
going to happen.
I was going back and forth, and I said, no, well, I'm not. I can't. I got to stick with the guy I've been saying all along.
You did it with
And-
Tampa. You stuck with them, and it worked
and-
out for you.
And we're back at it on the Thursday night. We're going to do a little bonus
Yeah.
edition.
Went right before the Patriots
all right.
pick. We'll
Let's
do a
see.
quick episode. We'll do a quick recap, and then
Unless they move up, and then we're screwed.
Yeah,
Then we don't have one.
We did, you know what we should do? We should like 10 minutes before the draft, we should be like talk
On
about our
speed
possible
dial.
trade scenarios and be like, well, this was our mock draft, no trades. Yeah, this is what we think if a trade comes up. or in real time be like, all right, a trade just happened, so we're gonna change the rest of our draft. See if we can in real time edit it.
all right. We'll see.
I like it.
All right, guys. As always, follow us on. You can download us from Apple Podcasts. We're on SoundCloud, and you can give us a review, add some comments, give us some feedback. Until next time, good night. Good night, boys.
See ya.
Good night.